All right, I wanted to make a pretty quick video here about the basics of looking at weather for ridge soaring purposes. And I've, in the past 2 years, I've got it down to just like using basically one app and a couple of websites for each of the wind meters that I look at. So the night before, I will look at this Davis Point wind meter and see what it's reading in the forecast. And I don't get into too much more than just the quick look plus. I don't look at a bunch of different variables any longer. I just look at the quick look plus because it's going to change on the day of anyway. So I might look at the next day and say, okay, the wind might pick up in the afternoon a little bit, and then that's when I start looking the next day. Or I could look a couple days out and see, okay, well, on Wednesday in the morning, it might be pretty good for a little bit. So that's what I do in the general. This gives me the general area. And the reason this meter is important is because of where it's situated. The wind funnels through the delta. It's very delta dependent in this area, for Vallejo anyway. So that gives you an idea of what overall might be happening. And then I can come into here and look at the Channing East meter if it's a east day, and I can do the same thing with that. Or I can look at the Blue Rock meter if it's a west day, and there is a Channing West meter that's on the west side of Channing as well for those days that you might want to use those. I also use the Channing East meter for Gateway, but I mainly rely on the Davis Point for the whole area to see if it's even in the realm of working. So that's Vallejo. That's what I check for Vallejo. I know that this tends to be lighter than what we normally see on an east day at Channing. So if this is reading 15, gusting 15 or above, then I know it's probably going to be pretty strong at Channing, and I might watch the Channing East meter pretty carefully to see how much is actually realized there. There's a weird little compression that happens, between in here in the stacks. The wind compresses into here. Okay, so that's Vallejo area. I pretty much rely on just 3 meters for that: Davis Point, Blue Rock, and Channing East. And but if I didn't want to fly in Vallejo, if I wanted to fly somewhere else, then I could still rely on this app. So there's Tam over here. You could look at some of these wind meters and do the same thing. Just see what are they doing, what do they predict, and then try and match it up on the day of. And then Muscle Rock is here in the middle. This meter is not that accurate as far as I can tell, but it gives you an idea of forecasting. So that's what we can see. It's probably not going to be a good day at Muscle Rock anytime soon. But you can also look at the meter just to the south and see what it's doing there, because sometimes there's wind gradient from the south up to Funston, and it might be stronger at Funston. So those are the 3 meters I look at for that, for Muscle. Let's see, Ed 11's over here. And what we're looking for here is Mount Allison. Mount Allison is what I check for this whole area. It seems to be fairly reliable in some regard, as much as it can be. I'm sure the local people that fly there more often would have some more tricks, but more often people are looking at lapse rate as well. And what I'm talking about here is just base wind. If you're going to Ed 11 just for some sledders, then you're really just looking that there's no wind over the back, maybe light wind from the west. Here's the other trick that I use, and that is that the Davis Point meter way over here is at the delta's height, right? The delta's elevation. And then this is Mount Diablo, so it's much higher. So sometimes you can see that there's a wind gradient from the delta up higher. And that can be useful because that means that there's a lot of strength. There could be a lot of strength in the area, and conditions could change. But that's just something to be aware of in general. The Stoneman meter that I look at is really just this one. And I'm looking for usually 10 mile an hour from the east. And Stoneman's in here. Now there is a meter in here, but it only works in very specific scenarios. So yeah, anyway, that's the general idea. The other thing that I do, so let's say we've looked at the forecast for somewhere we want to fly. We see that maybe it's flyable in the next couple of days. So then the morning of, I will switch over to the Wonderground link for that same, for the wind meter. And the reason that is because it can tell you when it last updated 1 minute ago. You can see that right under station summary. And that's useful because I know what's actually happening right now, at least to this station. In WindAlert, that can be delayed by like 30 minutes. So that's what I can do there. And I have Channing as well as some other specific ones. But yeah, Blue Rock. This is the other one. And it updates much faster than on WindAlert. So there's my little trick. I'm just look for flyable conditions as determined by me and my rating and what I want to fly in. And then the day of, I just look at those wind meters that I care about on Wonderground because it updates faster. That's pretty much all I do for ridge soaring. And I might make a video later about what I do for thermal flights, but we're not quite to that part of the year yet, so we'll see. Yeah, let me know if this was useful.